There's only so far you can go in your business on your own, and that's what Paul is now grappling with. In this week's Hot Seat episode, Paul was determined to keep the business running with just him. But he's quickly realizing if he wants to continue scaling, he's going to need better systems and help. The problem is, he really loves coaching and being part of the whole process with his clients. This has made figuring out where to bring in help and what systems to create difficult to figure out. Jonathan tells Paul that his experience is what every coach scaling goes through. He also gives him an exercise to help identify the tasks he wants to keep and the ones he wants to offload so he can focus on what systems to make and the right people to hire. I'll be back at the end to recommend another episode. Enjoy.
Who are you? Who do you work with? And what are we talking about today?
Right now, I'm Paul Bono. I work with people over 30 who want to lose weight, build muscle without feeling overwhelmed and spending a ton of time in the gym. Um, the I hope statement isn't super concrete, and I've been okay with that.
Yep.
More or less, I provide just like a ton of practical and realistic solutions for people that don't want to make working out their entire life. You know what I mean?
Got it.
And then today, where I'm at, I'm in a little bit of a bottleneck. The beginning of this year, I came on strong. Like I worked all the steps. I crushed DMs. I was sending out content, and things went really well. I matched my 2023 revenue, and surpassed it within the first 6 months of this year. So
Okay.
on track to double. Things have been going really well, but fulfillment side of things slowed. I broke all my systems. The software I was using, TrueCoach, couldn't keep up with delivering lifestyle habits and data tracking. I didn't have a client group where it was easy to provide resources. I didn't have any automations, getting any help and things like that. So the last
Mm-hmm.
2 months, it's been me going backwards, taking a step back and trying to make sure that I'm building systems to allow the business to grow
Right.
without me losing all the hair on the back of my head like it's like it's been going.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's what happens when you have success and you start growing well. One of the jokes that Jason and I have is that, our job with the mentorship is not to eliminate problems, is to create a new set of problems for people. And that's a part of business growing, is it will break. And that never stops. There are very distinct points where businesses break, basically, from like with online fitness. What we found is like basically 0 to 100,000, you can pretty much wing it. You want to get to 300,000 or so a year. You need some systems, but not that organized. Like most people can do it super profitably, really like, you know, and then getting from that 300,000 to 1 million is like a serious breaking point. Um, 300,000 to 1 million, uh, is a serious breaking point where you really need to take a step back and you're like, no, I gotta systematize and operationalize this thing. Um, and some people choose to do it and other people don't. But it sounds like you're choosing to do it. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, no, you're right. So the vision for my business, I definitely want to watch it grow, but I also don't know what's the next thing for me to be focusing on.
Hmm.
Lately, I've been still creating like creating 2 or 3 pieces of content a week, repurposing or reposting at least one.
Yep.
Um, I just hired a VA and for the first time,
Cool.
and I'm the bottleneck there, like just time wise, right? Like I'm the bottleneck with a lot of things, it feels like,
Yep.
in the sense of trying to get them all created and like give them procedures and processes for them to have enough tasks to even help me with.
Hmm.
Um, so the vision for me originally was like I want to be the only coach in the business, and I just don't think that's going to be potentially possible with,
It's not.
yeah, like with wanting to be 250 to 300,000 $300,000 a year business. I don't think I'll be able to do just me
Yeah, I mean,
plus.
you could probably get to 200, 250 and like really drive yourself nuts. Some people do it. What's interesting is that because we do have some students in OTM that are, you know, at that as like a solo business, is all of them actually are somewhere along the autism spectrum that are doing that by themselves, which is
Mhm.
just an interesting pattern that I've kind of seen. Most people break around 30 to 40 clients for themselves, but the people who are able to take on 50, 60, 70, 80 by themselves all seem to be somewhere, you know, along that spectrum. Um, and so the students that we have that are, you know, upwards of 700, 800, you know, million plus a year, all figured out, all went through exactly what you're going through. So number one, there's a path for you. And number two, we got your back on this. So, you know, it's normal, I guess is the first thing that I'll say. And I went through it too. I mean, I've been through multiple breaking points in my business. And when you're in them, it's just constantly like, how the hell am I going to get out of this? Um, this VA that you hire, do they have any experience with your types of businesses, or are they more of a generic VA?
Yeah, there's very well connected to OTM.
Mm.
Like they work with a couple other OTM coaches,
Okay, great.
or like OTM coaches and OTM clients and like your own clients. So
Yep,
um, they know the process and the systems
great,
that we're working with, which
great,
has been good.
good. Okay, so that'll help a lot. What do you like to do? What do you think makes you special? Why have you been successful?
Um,
Don't be
so
humble.
I do want to just, yeah, I'll get to backtrack a little bit and then
Mm,
I'll get right into the answer. You made the mention of uh, the people that are successful with a lot of clients on their own are potentially on the autism spectrum. I'm like the exact opposite. I
yeah,
actually have diagnosed OCD and ADHD, so I'm like constantly checking and like
yeah,
a little bit of a people pleaser, and that's probably making it the exact opposite of why I'm like struggling with 30
totally,
40.
totally.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to give you that context. No excuse or anything there, just like a little bit of context of how my
Hmm.
brain works.
It's
Um,
not, I mean, I appreciate the context because it's not a good or a bad thing. It's just, it's the thing, right? We all, I mean, some people more than others, but like everybody has a natural way that they operate. And the more they work with the natural way that they operate, the better that they're going to do and the better they're going to feel about how they do. None of this is new.
totally.
Know thyself. I don't know who said that like 1,000 years ago, but like none of this is new, right? Okay, get back to the question, but thank you for that context because that's helpful.
Yeah. So the reason why I have been successful is I love people. And I'm getting emotional just thinking about it, is
Hmm.
I'm quite empathetic. I really love the coaching and I
Yes.
love supporting people through it. And I love pushing them along their journey. I wouldn't say I'm not a super hard coach. I definitely come in with some hard coaching when appropriate, but I'm there to, kind of guide and support rather than like call everyone out on every single mistake they make. It's like
Yeah.
that's not why I'm here.
Sure.
So I think I've had an ability to have conversations and guide people through some really tough times in their lives with both practical solutions, but also with showing them the bigger picture. Part of my story is 2015. I was on the CrossFit Games podium, and a couple of years later, I was diagnosed with lupus, and like that rocked my world. I've been through a ton of different. I've had job layoffs. I've had a divorce. I've had huge breakups. So I've been through a lot of situations that have allowed
Mhm.
me to coach people realistically with some context rather than just like, go
Yeah.
harder, man.
I mean, that's one of the things I think that separates great coaches from not great coaches is they've been through some shit themselves. Like they've not even necessarily through shit, but like they've lived life. Um, what was the question I got the other day from somebody on my Instagram? It was, do you think it's possible for somebody in their 40s like me to make a career in fitness. I'm like, you have an advantage over all these 20-year-old yahoos. Like, it's not that they don't have anything to offer, but the majority of clients that hire trainers are 40 plus, 30 plus, 40 plus, 50 plus. They want somebody who's lived a little bit of life. They want somebody who understands them. So the coaching aspect. Okay.
Mhm.
That's really special. Why though? I mean, do you think it's possible for you to set up a kind of model similar to what we've set up with OTM, where I get to show up and have conversations with you like this, which are super fun. But I'm not at all in the weeds. Like, I'm wondering whether there's an opportunity to bring in, not just a VA who's going to like plug some gaps, but like an actual operator of the business that allows you the key to me is how can you amplify the things about you that make you special to show up where you want to show up, versus plugging the gaps. I mean, you can still own the business. Like Jason,
Yeah.
who operates OTM for us, has a profit share. So he's got, buy-in and skin in the game, but I don't know. Because if that's the part that fills you up, you don't have to lose that, I guess is what I'm saying. You don't have to be the primary point of contact with a client or with every client. It doesn't mean you still can't show up and have deeper conversations.
The thing with it is like, additionally, I like seeing the client journey, right? Like I like mapping that out. I like writing programs. I've spent a lot of time like I went back with a master's for kinesiology, applied physiology, did a ton of time studying program design and like writing programs and stuff like that. I do like that stuff too. I definitely like that stuff too. What I don't love is I don't love the in the weeds of like, this client needs a program change. And now I got to spend Saturday morning, like changing out this exercise for the next 10 weeks. Like that to me is like that for my skill set feels like a little bit of a waste of time.
Yeah.
The OTM model for my business feels really overwhelming, leading potentially that many people, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's big, but it's 6 years old. So
yeah,
it wasn't always like that. It grows as it's needed, and we've purposefully grown it very slowly. Jason and I have had a lot of conversations about that. We've waited for things to break, versus getting ahead of it and growing faster, just because that's the business that we want to run. We don't need the aggressive approach, but okay. So I think here's the next steps then. This is going to be a fun exercise for you, I think, is to, this next exercise my dad had me do years back, is to write at the top of your page, Paul's training, right? Whatever, just write your name, doesn't matter. And then what you're going to do is you're going to create an org chart. And this is where it gets interesting, because it's very old fashioned. That org chart is going to have, each piece of it is going to be a square. So call it like CEO, for lack of a better term, at the top. And then every online fitness business has effectively 3 departments to it. You've got administration, customer service. You've got sales and marketing. And then you've got client service. It's effectively it, right? In those 3 buckets. So those are going to be your next 3. Admin, customer service, right? Sales, marketing, and then call it client service. Okay. Each one of those is a bucket. Each one of those is an empty square, right? Assume that like somebody at one point might own that department. For example, like Drea Maxwell is the team lead for the coaches, right? And then within that, there is going to be additional prongs, isn't there? So for admin customer service, you're going to have customer service, you're going to have bookkeeping, you're going to have accounting, you're going to have technical admin. I mean, as many of these as nuanced as small as you can break these up. You're going to write down all those things. And you might, as you go about your week or the next 2 weeks, like kind of add to it. If you're doing a task and you're like, this doesn't fit into any of the buckets, like kind of add to it. Each one of those has a square. Okay. The same thing for sales and marketing. So one of them might be like, call it IG content. Well, for IG content, there might be the creation, there might be the formatting, there might be the posting, there might be the commenting. You see what I'm doing here?
Yeah.
There's of course the DM settings, there's the sales calls, and then there's the like, well, no, that's probably going to be more or less it. You know, if you do paid, that's different beast, whatever, right? And then the client service, you're going to do the same thing. Now, every single one of these, if you look at my terrible drawing, is going to have an empty box. Your job is to put a name in every single box. When you start this, it's probably going to be your name in every single one of them, but one or two. It might be VA doing a little bit of these things, but you'll take a look at this and you're like, actually, there's a lot of stuff I'm doing and very few things that this person is doing. Most likely, right?
Yeah.
But what that allows you to do then is now you have your entire business and you can take a look at it and you can systematically replace your name in those boxes. And you can do that in a priority sequence. So some combination of how important that task is to the business and how much I don't like doing that. You know, you kind of want to optimize for those first.
Okay.
And what you will ideally be left with is probably one or two or three things where you're like, actually, this is like the things that I really want to keep showing up with. Because then what you can start to do is, then what you have is you've got a very clear cut definition of what you're hiring for. Versus just hiring a VA and be like, I need help, I need a VA.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I'll give you an example. I don't mind creating content. For whatever reason, the act of finishing and finalizing a piece of content and posting it to my account breaks me down. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But that's what Josue and Alina do for me. Is I send them a Google Doc of content written. They post it to my Twitter. They format it. I mean, I'll show you. Like, they format it and they send me it via WhatsApp. Right? So here's one from yesterday. Right? Here's the one that they did today. So they send me that, and then they send me the caption that I already sent to them. It's like, it's the silliest little bit, but this process of mapping out all of the tasks of the business, I was like, oh, that's the part that breaks me down. And then I was able to build a system very specifically to get me out of the way of that.
Yeah. That makes sense. That's the exact thing with content that I hate. I don't mind writing it, but organizing it in Canva or the editing and putting it all together, I'm like, oh, this is anxiety provoking. And that's where the OCD really gets caught up and the checking really gets caught up.
And even just thinking about like, oh, what time of the day should I post this at? And what did I post yesterday and stuff? And I'm just like, I know it really doesn't matter at all over the long term, but it still causes me to overthink, gives me brain fog, distracts me. Yeah, man, I think that's an exercise that'll help you a lot.
Cool. Yeah, I have it written down. I'm excited to do it because I've been starting to play with some of that as I've been like trying to give the VA stuff. I'm like, just help. You know what I mean? And it's like, and then she'll be like, well, how am I doing? I'm like,
I don't know.
I'm the bottleneck. Like I don't have clear tasks for you because I'm so overwhelmed. I don't even know what I need.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool, man. All right. Chat anytime. Thanks for doing this again.
Amber here. Thanks for listening in. This episode was from a group call from Jonathan's online trainer mentorship where we host hot seats every 2 weeks. The mentorship is where we take anyone doing from $1,000 to $20,000 a month or more and help them scale up. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in learning more about, please DM the word mentor to Jonathan on Instagram at It's Coach Goodman. If you're looking for another episode to listen to right now, I'd recommend episode 197, Pacing Yourself as an Entrepreneur. You've made it as an entrepreneur and you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor, but it's a lot harder than you thought. In this episode, you learn how to create your own 8-to-4 framework because the whole work-life balance idea is bullshit. How to use the leapfrog effect so you don't go stagnant or burn out, and how to take downtime. Again, that's episode 197, Pacing Yourself as an Entrepreneur. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next week.